This is Civics Chapter 9, Section 3, Local Government Services. So, the local government that you live in provide a lot of services that citizens need, and they allow these services to run successfully. Local governments do not always have, and they never have, an unlimited supply of money. So it's up to the city or township council to decide how much of this funding each one of these government programs receive. That's why it's so important to elect officials that agree with funding programs that you agree with. There's only so much money to go around, and every program cannot be funded equally. Funding, what it is that? Well, that's providing financial support for a program or project. Majority of the money that funds all these services to support communities comes from taxes paid by the citizens in the community. So this is just a chart showing all the different services local government does, provides, takes care of streets and roads. Kind of talked about that last time. Senior citizen facilities, public transportations, fire protection, waste disposal, parks and recreation. If you ever seen the TV show Parks and Rec, that's what it's a local government, and that's where they do, and they focuses on the Parks and Recreation uh, section of the local government. Animal control, libraries, all that is uh, part of the local government. We're going to focus on some of the major things that local governments do. Education is the biggest. By far, local governments spend the most money on public education. Public education is free to all school-age citizens in the United States. There is no yearly tuitions that your parents have to pay for or an entrance fee. You just simply have to be an American child, or you don't even have to be a citizen. You just have to be a child living in the United States, and you can go to school for free. Every child in the United States is guaranteed a public education. The United States believes in building our future through our children. That's why we spend so much money on education. If you, it's one of those things you can give a man a fish, he eats for a day. Teach a man a fish, they eat forever. You want to invest in your children and youth because really children are your future, and we have to train the next generation to keep moving forward and keep the U.S. alive. In Pennsylvania, public education is funded through property taxes. What property taxes is the tax on privately owned property. Could be residential, it could be business. So you own a piece of property. Depending how much it's worth, that's how much tax money you pay. Obviously, if it's worth a lot, you pay a lot more taxes. If it's not worth a lot, you don't pay as much. Um, Every area is different in how much you have to pay as far as property taxes. Nicer areas with nicer houses obviously pay more property taxes. Uh, More poverty-ridden areas do not pay a lot of taxes because their property is not worth a lot. So unfortunately, it's kind of that vicious cycle is that nicer areas get nice things because it's a nice area, and poor areas get poor things because they're living in the poor area. So, more higher property taxes equals nicer schools. The more you pay into it, it's how you know that's the more you pay in taxes. What you see it like the buildings are nicer, the teachers are better, just everything. More athletic equipment. Funding for the schools provide a lot, like the lunches, the teachers, the buildings themselves. Like I said, the athletic program, books, computers, and more. The laptop that you use, that was all funded by the property tax that your parents and other businesses and other people pay. Unfortunately, there is great inequality between schools in the United States. The areas with a lot of money have nice schools. The areas that don't, unfortunately, uh, don't have as nice as schools. Fortunately, the federal government will step in, the state government will step in really poverty-stricken areas, but still, there's some inequality there. Students can choose to attend a private school, but their parents must pay a yearly tuition. So you don't have to go to your public school, but you have to go to a school. But your parents are going to have to pay to go to like a Catholic school or just a private school such as Swickley Academy. Charter schools are available that students can go to, usually after whenever you can pretty much choose to go to these charter schools anytime you want, like Propel, but they usually have a particular focus for those students to go to, such as Lincoln Park Performing Arts Charter School. Like if you're really into the performing arts, you can go to that charter school. Usually you have to apply to get into these charter schools, even though it's publicly funded. You have to apply and you have to be accepted. All public schools in the U.S. are required by the government to provide a career training school option for students who want to learn a trade or skill while in high school. Wow, that's all of you taking this class right now. This is why you're able to attend Parkway West Career and Technology Center. Every school must offer that option in the U.S. It's really important that we have people in the trades and learn skills. Especially, it's great for young people to do that. So, good choice by going to Parkway. Every school district has a school board that makes important decisions for their schools, such as approving the school's budget, where's the money going, approving teacher hires, deciding to remodel or build schools. They pretty much represent the public's opinion on how the school should be operated, since they are elected by the community themselves. That's why each school district is a little unique and kind of reflects their own community, because the people in charge are elected by that community. The school board for Parkway is comprised of a board member from each one of our sending school district, and that kind of makes up our Parkway West CTC board. Superintendents, they answer directly to the school board, but they are the head of a school district. We don't have a superintendent. We have a director, and that's Dr. Copeland. He's in charge of our entire school at Parkway. This is just showing the hierarchy of schools. You have the school board, superintendent, and then you have principals, teachers, and then you, and then your parents kind of elect the school board, and that's kind of the cycle. State government has a great deal of influence on school districts, though, even though school districts are local. Every state sets the educational standards for every public school, which classes are required for graduation. This is why you have to take this class. This is why you're taking civics, because Pennsylvania requires that you take a civics class, and that's why they require you to take 3 math classes and 3 social studies, and I believe 4 Englishes, but I'm not sure. And it requires you to take gym class. That's all because the state tells your school district that that's what needs to happen if you want to earn that graduation degree. State government provides about a third of the funding for the school district, so they do have pretty good influence. And the state checks students' learning and the effectiveness of every school by providing state standardized tests. The state wants to know that their schools that they're funding are running appropriately, that the students are learning, and that's what those standardized tests are for. The Keystone tests are mandatory assessments created by Pennsylvania that every student must complete. School districts will definitely, all public school districts in Pennsylvania do the Keystones because that's how they receive state funding. They won't receive state funding unless they have their students complete these tests. And the schools definitely need the state funding. So, local governments provide those emergency safety services, such as the police that protect the community from criminals and work to ensure all laws will be enforced. Police officers themselves usually live within the community and they know the community. Pittsburgh police officers have to live within the city limits, so they're close by if they're needed in an emergency. Local police departments have their own jail. It's usually small, but it's usually just some holding cells, so they can hold arrested prisoners for a night or two if need be. Police officers are always present when there's an emergency that happens, whether it's a fire, road repairs, direct traffic. They're usually the first responder on the scene because police officers are usually spread out in the community and can respond to emergencies very quickly. Local fire departments are funded by local taxes and donations by the community for equipment such as fire trucks. Um, Most fire departments rely on volunteers in the community to become firefighters. Like I said at the beginning, uh, local governments don't have money for everything, and having a full-time firefighting force usually isn't in the budget. So communities rely on volunteers, and thankfully, always have a lot of volunteers for the fire department. Um, Fire departments provide that important service of suppressing fires, putting them out, uh, providing fire prevention services. They assist in car crashes and other fortunate events. So that local fire department does a lot. Having community members as local firefighters is important because they live close to the fire department. They can get there quickly, and they know the area. They know where to go when they drive the truck. Um, and everything like that. Large cities do have to have a full-time firefighting force because the massive buildings and just how many firefighters they need at one time, if required to rescue people, um, they just need a full-time firefighting force, so they are paid. So you have Fairview in South Fayette Township, North Fayette Volunteer Fire Department. They do a lot. Those volunteer fire departments. Uh, with those in need of medical attention, you look to the emergency medical technicians of the community. They assist people in emergency situations and provide emergency care. Local taxes pay for those ambulance and those EMTs who bring you to the hospital. Is important in a community that the police, fire department, and emergency medicals all work together when emergencies do occur. So funding and definitely helps. The more funding definitely helps in the communication. They can afford more radios and more and everything equipment that can allow them to orchestrate relief services better. So, unfortunately, in the United States, people live in poverty. It's just a fact in the United States. We've tried to end poverty for many, many years, but we're still working on it, still work in progress, still haven't figured it out. Definitely, the coronavirus has not helped in ending poverty in the United States. But local governments take it upon themselves to help people in the community by providing them health care, housing, and food. Most communities have some form of low-income housing that is available to people that can't afford houses or do not make a lot of money. The federal, state, and local governments help those in need for food, such as SNAP, which is the food stamp program. It's the Supplemental Nutrition Assist Program. And it's a program that allows family to buy food at their local grocery store for a discount or free. Uh, Local food banks also provide food for the community members in need, and they're stocked by the donations from citizens and businesses. So donate to your local food bank, and it was especially important now because COVID unemployed a lot of people, and a lot of people, especially at the beginning of the COVID pandemic, needed those food banks to provide food for their families. And to go back to the low-income houses, low-income houses are located uh, in housing projects. They call them, the projects. Have you ever heard of that? Unfortunately, the problem in the past with these low-income projects is that you have all these people that do not make a lot of money. Um, Crime rates gets high there, and it just creates not a very nice environment. but housing projects are getting better. So this is kind of like a typical housing project, just a big ugly buildings, just really crowded. They're trying to make them a little bit more livable and a little bit more upscale. So here's a food bank here. It's all volunteer workers. So food banks are really necessary for every community. So in healthcare, the United States does not provide universal health care, even though we've tried to get that passed with Obamacare and everything like that, but we do not. The United States does not provide health care for all its citizens, but it does provide health care for some citizens, such as children. There's the program called CHIP, which is the Children's Health Insurance Program. Um, anyone under the age of 18 qualifies, so any child will receive health care. Medicaid is the state government program that provides health care for citizens that are really poor and can't afford health care. You have to be pretty poor to get Medicaid, but you can apply for it. And then Medicare is for the government program for citizens that are 65 and older. They're retired. They don't work anymore, so their employer, they don't get um, health insurance from their employer. So the government helps them out to pay for insurance, and Medicare also helps disabled Americans that can't work and provide health care and from their employer. And last, local government also applies utilities. They make sure water, electric, gas, and waste removal is all accessible to um, the community. What they do is they hire private companies such as Columbia Gas, Duquesne Light, and Comcast Internet to come into the community and provide that service. It's the government's responsibility to keep on these companies, make sure everything's maintained. Says when there's a power outage, the community contacts them. Like, hey, you gotta go fix that. And then water and sewage removal are usually, since it's so big, usually a joint effort between the local and township and county. Like Alcosan for Allegheny County does all the purification of the water and takes in all the wastewater and makes it okay again. And then most communities have water towers that supply the area with constant water pressure. Um, they kind of look like this modern day water tower, and it keeps that constant water pressure for the community.